Hello everyone, how's it going? Remember to like, sub, and share, it helps a great deal. So Star Wars Outlaws has sold just 1 million copies in the first month since its launch. This is abysmal. Like, yeah, Star Wars has plummeted from its once glorious position, but, the games have done somewhat well. Like, despite Star Wars Battlefront 1 being a tremendous failure critically, commercially, it sold millions upon millions of copies. Granted, it was like just people begging for a Battlefront game, and Battlefront 2 also launched horribly with Madden-esque microtransactions until Disney stepped in. Granted, the game made a huge comeback, and then EA abandoned the game. The campaign sucked. Like, I still don't get how a special ops Empire soldier didn't know what the Empire was doing, and then the rebellion issue of decide to make her the personal bodyguard for Princess Leia. I was like, this person killed probably hundreds of your friends and other rebellion soldiers. You don't think she's trying to infiltrate? I mean, we knew she didn't, but regardless, it was just like, what the fuck? But yeah, the games have done well when it came to Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order. Survivor did launch broken, but the story was really well done, and they fixed a lot of the issues, but never forget about that. But it's just like, what the hell happened here? Like, people have been begging for a game like this for a long time, and Ubisoft it. They made it into a Ubisoft game, lots of glitches, open worlds. Apparently, even the open world was garbage. It was just really empty, which is surprising because that's the one good thing about Ubisoft games. Say what you will about like games like Far Cry 6, but the open world in that game was freaking amazing. It's just that it's just filled with so much tedious content. Like, guys, you had a winning formula and you had great franchises. Don't make the same thing with every game. But yeah, Star Wars Outlaws was plagued with issues at launch. That's saying something. Like, literally, I'm still getting videos recommended to me showing the game in such a disaster state, some of which led Ubisoft to make drastic tweaks. It wasn't well received by the general market, and gamers worldwide have been giving it pretty low scores. That's saying something. It comes as no surprise to learn that the entire month that on shelves, Star Wars Outlaws has just sold 1 million copies. God. I mean, granted, they don't really want you to buy the game. They want you to subscribe to Ubisoft Plus. That's why they had the best edition of the game on that service. They want that recurrent payment because recurrent payments are kind of the future. And they've stated they don't want people to get comfortable not owning their games. They want them to get comfortable with streaming services when it came to video games. And some products are good, like with Xbox Game Pass. Regardless, yeah, that thing is very expensive at $20 a month. But you get EA Play, you get first launch titles for Xbox. You have to pay for the $20 one, but even with the expensive price tag, you get a lot of deals with the Xbox Game Pass. I don't know why you can't pay it for a year, like a yearly subscription, but, it's Microsoft gaming. What are you going to do? But yeah, Ubisoft doesn't really care about the sales. They just want you to subscribe and then forget about it. Because, again, like, if this was $10 a month, I think it would be okay. But the fact they sell it for, like, $18 a month for their premium and then $8, like, who the fuck will pay $18 a month? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, at most, it should be, like, $13 a month. Like, I think that would have probably been, like, the way I would have done it is $13 a month, and you get day one launches a week after they launch. I think that would be okay. But maybe I don't have that business sense. I'm a gamer first, and I always put consumer first interest. It's not as many sales as Ubisoft has expected, which explains the recent comments about the game's performance proving softer than expected. It's also partly why Assassin's Creed Shadows was considerably delayed, being pushed back from November 2024 to February 2025. That should say 2025. But I also think it's because they oversaturated this year. Like, if you think about everything that released this year, Ubisoft released a lot of games. Skull and Bones finally released. They had to release it because they took money from the Singaporean government. Then there was Prince of Persia, which actually was positively received, but a lot of people just said, we're not going to pay full price for a Metroidvania game. And two, a lot of people have become annoyed with that. Like, they keep resetting the Prince of Persia franchise. Like, it has no consistency to it anymore. Like, first they did the trilogy, which were really well received. They're still remaking the first game, remastering the first game. And then they did a brand new soft reboot with the cel shaded graphics, which wasn't as well received as the first set of games, but people liked it. And then they never continued that game. Then they did the movie game. Yes, Prince of Persia had a movie, and they did a movie tie-in game, which a lot of people were like, why the fuck would you do this? Like, we want a sequel to the other Prince of Persia game. Then they did this one, and it's just like it's all over the place. Like, what are you guys doing? And then they had X-Defined, which is on borrowed time, apparently because they're afraid of Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Granted, the developer came out and said that's not true, but, I mean, come on, it's Black Ops 6. It's going to trump X-Defined. It is what it is. Then they have Star Wars Outlaws, which you can see here. And then Assassin's Creed Shadows, which, I think this says it all. The slide-in horse. So yeah, they released so many games this year. They're stretched way too thin. They should have separated these releases. Like this year, they should have just released Skull and Bones and Star Wars Outlaws, or delayed Outlaws till November or December and polished the game. Like, they have this mentality where they're releasing the games, they'll fix the bugs later, but gamers are fed up about that. They're not taking that shit anymore. Because these games are so expensive nowadays, $70, $80, $130 editions, and you don't get crap. You get literally pre-order bonus garbage that should have been in the game. I don't mind pre-order bonuses where you're oh, to get a head start, you get a 2x XP booster, who the fuck cares? They're actually locking off content. And then they're locking off, it's not early access, it's more like you play the game on time. It's just a lot of this garbage. Even the Force can't help. Insider Gaming hasn't been able to learn what the expected sales figures was for Star Wars Outlaws, but we have secured current sales figures from sources close to the game. I would assume they were expecting at least 5 million. They were expecting at least Jedi Survivor or Fallen Order sales numbers. They probably don't have the exact sales numbers for that game either, but those games were exceptionally well received. Even though Survivor launched broken, it was an incredible story and a fantastic continuation to Jedi Survivor. So I assume they were expecting that, and they didn't get that because, well, it's a Ubisoft game. At the time of writing, Star Wars Outlaws has just ticked over 1 million sales worldwide. To put it into perspective, we reported on January 2024 that 3 months after Assassin's Creed Mirage had hit market, it had secured 5 million sales. Yeah, and also that game sold for $50. Granted, that was way too expensive for the game. I 100%ed that game. I can say it wasn't worth $50, at most $30. But the rumor was that was originally supposed to be part of Assassin's Creed Valhalla. But considering that they were desperate for money, considering Ubisoft's stock is in the literal bottom of the barrel right now, they decided to repackage it and sell it as its own game. It wasn't a bad game. It definitely gave you context if you're an Assassin's Creed fan to Basim's story, but it definitely wasn't worth the price. It was okay. It felt more like Assassin's Creed 1.5. It didn't really feel like a fully featured Assassin's Creed game. I would put it in between there. In early trailers and demos, Star Wars Outlaws impressed gamers excited to explore a vast and open world environment as a new character following an original story. What the fuck are you talking about? When I saw the trailer and demos of the game, a lot of people were saying the opposite of that. They were saying this looks generic, this looks boring. Not to mention the way Kate Vess looked. Everyone was looking at that character and they're like, why is her chin it looks like the Crimson Chin. And then when you put it side by side with the voice actress, we're just like, what the fuck happened? Based on what I've seen, a lot of people did like Kate Vess, but at the same time, they were like, she's not really an outlaw. She's just a outlaw who acts like a cop. She just has a heart of gold. She rarely does anything that an outlaw would actually do. As the time wore on, the sentiment around the game wavered somewhat. Not somewhat. I really don't, what do you, am I the one not seeing this? Based on what I saw from the initial response and everything that was happening, it was always negatively received. Am I wrong about that? Because from what I saw, a lot of people, yeah, they gave it a chance, but at the same time, the negativity and the reception behind the demos and the trailers were just poor. And gameplay videos released close to the launch of the game failed to fill consumers with a sense of anticipation. I remember the IGN video of it where the player was shooting NPCs point blank and they were facing the wrong direction. So I really think that this is like gaslighting. On social contact and streaming platforms, the buzz around Star Wars Outlaws dried up pretty quickly, and all that was left was a string of clips posted to social media showcasing the game's poor stealth sequences and bugs. I mean, they were there even in the demo. Like, when they were doing the first impressions, they were there. This kind of thing that Ubisoft moved to patch not long after launch, they didn't patch it. It's still happening. I'm getting recommended videos showing that it's still happening. They haven't patched shit. It's still bad. In 30 days on the market, Star Wars Outlaws, it's just, okay, whatever. Like, here's the thing. If the game actually took risk, I feel like people would have been a little more forgiving of it. Like, at least they would, like with Jedi Survivor. Like, that game was launched in a state that would be comparable to Cyberpunk 2077. Not the PS4 and Xbox One versions, the Series X and PS5 versions, but people liked it because the story was really good. Like, the gameplay was solid. Like, that's why people really gave it a chance. Yeah, it shouldn't have released in that state, but at least the game was good. That's the thing. It was still a good game. It had great characters. Cal was incredible. This game is boring. Like, based on what I've seen, people have said the same thing. Like, yeah, they kind of like K-Vess, but she's a character that no one's going to remember in a year. People still talk about Cal. People still talk about Lando and all the original characters. It's just that she is unforgettable. She's boring. She's uninventive. She's safe. Like, at this day, like I've stated before about X Defiant, you can't, like, being a bad game is one thing, but being a mediocre game is even worse. Like what happened with Concord. Yeah, there were a lot of elements that made Concord the failure that it was, but at the core of everything, it was just average. Like, even the people who spoke exceptionally well about the game just said it. They say it was an average game. It did nothing new. It literally did everything that every game that does it better to the most average level you can possibly imagine. And that's what this game was. Like, no matter how much you try to put a cute character like this Nyx, like, I don't think Nyx can even compare to BD1. It's not going to matter because the game just simply had no hook to it. And apparently this robot creature, who was the highlight of the story, is also forgettable. Like, I remember watching a review and they said, this robot is barely in the game. Why is he on the box? But tell me what you think in the comments below. Like, I literally had zero interest to play this game because of how mediocre it looked. Like, I was like, maybe I'll do it for guides and content, but then I realized that it's probably going to launch broken, and I simply didn't want to deal with that. By the way, people who bought the game early or got Ubisoft Plus, you know what they did? They released a patch after the game went public to everyone else, and everyone who played it earlier had to restart the entire game because their save files were not compatible to the new patch. Just imagine that. Like, you literally just lost the goodwill of the customers who gave you extra money just to play the game on time. Like, I like Ubisoft. I don't want them to fail. I love Assassin's Creed. I love Watch Dogs. But even I'm just like, guys, reduce your staff, go back to what worked, and give your games identity. Stop playing it safe. You guys used to do great things. Like Watch Dogs 2, Assassin's Creed 2, even Assassin's Creed 3. I know when that game came out, a lot of people had reservations for it, but after time went on, and yes, the game still has major glitches, even with the remastered edition, a lot of people love Connor now. They're like, we should have given him the benefit of the doubt. He wasn't Ezio Auditore. He was Connor. And he's regarded very well in the games. Like, same thing for Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Like, it was incredible to see the war from the Templar and Assassin's point of view. To see that, hey, they're not so different. Or Assassin's Creed Unity. Like, literally, it's just, you guys used to take risk with your story and your character designs. Go back to that. Make your characters more interesting, dynamic. Sometimes make them jackasses and evil people who do destructive things, like with Assassin's Creed Rogue with Shay Cormac, where he abandoned the Assassin Order and killed his friends and family and joined the Assassins, the Templars, to a 100-degree effectiveness. He literally killed his former family. Do something like that. That was cool. That was interesting. That's what gamers want. But that I kind of went on a tangent. I'm just gonna do forget it. Whatever. Like, dislike, your choice. Goodbye. Good luck on today. Hope you have a good day.